Welcome to the What's Your Deal podcast, where we discuss business acquisitions, investments, management, and exit strategies. I'm your host, Matt Uhler. Let's dive in. Welcome to another episode of What's Your Deal. Today I'm joined with Paul Hickey. I'm so honored to have him. I'm going to share with you his bio, and then we're going to dive right in. He provides some very unique services to small business owners and large business owners for that matter, so I think you will enjoy this. Paul is the CEO of Legacy Wealth Management with over 30 years of experience in global finance, investment banking, mergers and acquisitions, and IPOs. He is a #1 best-selling author and seasoned entrepreneur, having held investment banking licenses, Series 24, 62, 63, and also has a BS in business administration with minors in accounting and economics. Paul is widely recognized for his deep expertise in starting, growing, and leading finance and technology companies. And last but not least, of course, he's also a father of 4, which is a very important job. So, Paul, thank you for joining us today.
Matt, thanks for inviting me on the show. I love the show, what you guys do. I'm excited to be here and have this conversation.
Thank you. Yes, and it's funny, when we met, 6 months ago, somewhere around that time frame, and we spent some time talking about small business transactions and people exiting. And I know you have a whole financial management component, but you also have a company called Legacy Exits, which is specifically catered towards business owners preparing for exit. So maybe we can expand a little bit on your background, but also share with us what it is you do at Legacy Wealth Management and Legacy Exits.
Yeah, I'll give you my kind of short bio and then jump into the Legacy Exit. So I started out as a tech entrepreneur back in the 90s. I started a technology company for the prepaid calling card business called QCOM. And I built some hardware and software. And fortunately, that thing really took off, and I took it all the way from startup through an IPO. And during that growth period, that's where I first started learning about finances, having to raise money, working with the investors. And then in the IPO, I watched how much money the investment bankers were making that were doing the IPO for me, and how much harder I was working. And so after we did the IPO, we actually got acquired a couple of years later, and by a much bigger public company. And then I went out and co-founded an investment bank doing small cap IPOs.
Interesting.
And so I spent about 10 years doing that. Some of the time, we were doing Chinese small cap companies that wanted to be public in the US. And we may talk a little about that later. And then I sold that company about 10 years ago. And then I've been kind of bouncing around. I had a pre-IPO fund for a period of time. I've been an angel investor for 30 years. And so I've been on really every side of the financing transaction as an entrepreneur, raising money, as an investment banker in the middle, finding money for companies, and as an investor, directly investing in a lot of early stage companies and technology companies. I fortunately landed with this company, Legacy Wealth Management, about a year ago, became their CEO. They're growing like crazy. And I'm having a lot of fun in this financial advisory side. It's a great business, serving people, helping them to elevate their wealth, expand their wealth in a way that works with their life is really meaningful. It can have a huge impact on someone's life when they get their finances right,
Oh, absolutely.
So Legacy Exits, this is part of our practice. So
Yes.
We're a financial advisory firm. We have about $1 billion that we manage. And Legacy Exits is a division we started to help our financial advisors that have clients that want to sell their companies. And we're basically leading and guiding them to the right professionals to work with them to sell their company, like yourself. Mm-hmm. We, as a financial advisory firm, our key goal in Legacy Exits is to create a financial plan so that the business owner knows what to do with the money when they exit, and that it actually meets their life goals. This is not just a financial plan; it's really a life plan. Mm-hmm. What do you want to be? What do you want to do once you sell the company? And that's different for every person. So we help people figure that out. And then once they sell the business, we help them manage some of the money, which is, whatever amount is appropriate. And in the process of creating that business life plan, financial plan, the other key thing we're doing is we're introducing special private alternative investments that will lower their capital gains, but also still give them a really good income. So raising the income on the money they get out of the exit and lowering their taxes is a major goal of legacy exits.
I can't think of many people that wouldn't like that combination. And it's interesting. One of the things that I spend a lot of time talking with my clients about, and even on the podcast, is exit readiness. Preparing your business for exit is huge in being able to capitalize financially on the exit. But what to do after that is such a whole nother piece. And I actually believe, and believe it because I've seen it, that a lot of the clients I work with that are getting ready to exit, the anxiety about what's coming is sometimes insurmountable, and a lot of times just anxiety provoking. And it's very rare. I'm not going to say never, because I just helped a client exit, and she was prepared and had worked through financial planning for years before the exit. But most are not that deliberate about it or that strategic. They literally just exit and then try to figure out what to do. And
now what?
Yeah. Now what?
Right.
Yeah. So I think,
now what am I to do?
Yeah. So the area that you serve is such an important one for so many people, and it gets overlooked so often.
It is. It's very important. And ideally, you want to do it before you sell the company. Mm-hmm. You want to figure that out, not only because you're going to lower your taxes and get better investments in place, but it's also going to help you just figure out, who you're going to be, because so many business owners, their business is their identity. So when they sell it, they're kind of selling themselves, a big part of themselves, right?
Yeah.
So I've got two things I will say to those business owners thinking and having anxiety about selling their company. Number one, if you're listening to this podcast, you're way ahead now, because you got the message. You need to start preparing and get a life plan and financial plan in place before you sell. But the second thing is, and I think you've probably seen this, Matt, when you sell a company and have a successful exit, so many opportunities emerge
it's
that
amazing.
You never even thought about.
Yeah.
And so it's not like, I don't know what I'm going to do. It's more like, what am I going to do with all these opportunities? That's literally a problem that a lot of business owners have. And so, I hope that lowers a little bit of anxiety, because there's just so many doors open up when you've had a successful exit. You'll have private equity guys coming to you going, hey, I just saw you build a business and sell it. I've got some money. Can you go do something else like this? Mm-hmm. That's not an uncommon scenario, right?
It's very true.
So,
yeah, and I think there's two parts to that. One is I've seen, and this is a whole nother conversation, but probably one that's very appropriate for us. But I've seen people come into the kind of money they can generate through an exit and be in a hurry to get rid of it. Again, almost like you look at lottery winners sometimes. I mean, they don't have any of it after a few years, and that's dangerous, because for most of my clients, they've accumulated a very significant income to sell a very significant income producing asset, their business, for a substantial amount of money. And when the golden goose is gone, they need to pay attention to what they do on the other side. And then the second piece, and I'd love to have you speak into this, but the second piece that I think is important is that so many of my clients, I just was working with a client a couple days ago, and he was feeling enormous anxiety about, am I doing the right thing? And what if it's a mistake? And what if I don't receive the earn out? And all of these concerns and fear. And as we were talking through that, and we addressed those, I mean, those are fair questions. But the other piece was, and I was able to guide him through, because I think it's important. I said, listen, what are some of your dreams? What do you want to do? I mean, you've got a clear, a blank canvas as soon as this is done. What are you excited about? And I'm not saying put on rose-colored glasses and forget everything else, but what I am saying is, for most people, it's a whole new season of life, a whole nother chapter that they get to design from scratch. And the planning that you're describing and ideally people take advantage of helps to paint that picture, as opposed to just focus on everything they're giving up.
100%. I'm going to give your listeners a little advice right now.
Great.
Because I've seen this. I was in Young Entrepreneur Organization for like 20 years. So I saw a lot of guys build businesses, sell them, and then make this mistake, which is, let's say they have a $10 million exit and they're like, I'm a business genius. I'm going to take the 10 million and go start another business. And they take all of their money or almost all of it, put it into something else, and then it doesn't work. And now they literally have nothing. And so the advice that I give every business owner exiting is, let's figure out what is the minimum amount that you can be comfortable on. Is it 10,000 a month? Is it 30,000 a month? And then let's take that amount of your exit and put it into conservative, non-correlated investments to the market. So it doesn't matter whether the market's up or down, you're going to get that $20,000 or $30,000 every month for the rest of your life. And then you can go roll the dice, right? But at least if you roll the dice and it doesn't work out, you're taken care of. And that is absolutely critical for every business owner having an exit to be thinking like that and to make that part of their plan.
I love it. Yeah, I think I appreciate you sharing that, because it is, it's important, and it ideally is something that people can catapult forward with. But in my opinion, I'm very much, and maybe it's just my mentality, but I'm very much about base hits. I mean, I'm not opposed to a home run if I hit one, but right. I am not interested in compromising my lifestyle or my family's security or any of that with any one thing. And for me, what you're sharing is sage advice. And I don't know many people that, especially after a significant exit, want to go back to starting from scratch if they can help it. And it's just a great way to ensure that happens. It also becomes part of the team, right? I mean, it's helpful to have people evaluate steps that are being taken. So
yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Great advice. So when you're working with somebody, do you recommend that it's 2 years before they exit, or 3 years, or 12 months, or what do you think is an appropriate amount of time for somebody to incorporate this kind of planning into succession plan?
6 months before is a good number, but 1 or 2 years is even better.
Okay.
If they really see that this is their plan, we're going to go sell in the next 2 or 3 years, that is a really good time to start this planning process. Now, it doesn't take it two or 3 years to create the plan. It takes a couple months. But I think the sooner you can create this plan, not only is it reduce all that anxiety, but it gives you this roadmap and the goal. It actually makes motivation to get through all the hard work that it takes, that Matt, that it takes to get one of these deals done. And one of the things business owners underestimate, especially if it's their first exit, it's just how much work it is. It's the analogy I use is when someone's like, yeah, I want to sell my business. They think they're just preparing for a 5K run when actually it's an Ironman. And it's a lot more work and a lot more time than it should be. We all know that.
Right.
And if you go into it with the right understanding that this is going to be hard, this is going to be a lot of extra work, it's going to be emotional. If you at least are aware of that going into it, you have a much better chance of doing well and surviving it. And that's why a plan, planning 2 or 3 years will help to reduce a lot of that. It'll also minimize the work at the end if you're planning ahead and getting everything straight. Working with somebody like you, a year, you probably prefer somebody 2 years ahead so you can really get everything done, and it's not this giant mountain of work in the last 3 months, right? So
yeah, well, and a lot of time, most of the people who come to see me for either coaching or brokerage services are coming when they're already done. Meaning, like, I just want to be done. Like, can you get me out tomorrow?
Yes.
If you can, I'm ready. That kind of thing.
Right.
Or they think they're ready. But to your point, to really capitalize on the exit, 12 months to a couple of years of analyzing the business. I just had a conversation with a client a few days ago where the valuation I provided was less than what he wanted or needed. And we talked very strategically about what he can do to get there. It's not impossible. Matter of fact, it's totally achievable. It just will take him operating his business a little bit differently in a way that makes it more attractive to the fair market, more bankable to financing sources, and just a couple little turns of dials, and he's there. And he positioned himself to provide himself with the time to do it. Whereas a lot of people are like, listen, I appreciate all of that. and get me out of here.
Get me out. Get me out. Well, that's the huge value add people like yourself add to the process, is helping to build the valuation, get everything right, if you have the time.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. So you referenced alternative investments and tax-free, and those are just such great terms. Can you share with us a little bit about how it is you help people in those areas?
Yeah, well, there's a number of different levers we can pull in terms of lowering taxes. And I don't want to get too technical on here, but there are investments called QOZs, Qualified Opportunity Zones, that are fabulous if you get the right ones. There's a number of QOZs that you don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole. But this is, again, why we have a full-time due diligence staff, making sure we get the ones that are good. But if you get the good ones, you get a big tax break, and you can get a really good return over a long period of time. So that's an example of one. There are things such as deferred sales trusts, a little technical, where you can transfer some or a significant portion of the business into a trust that doesn't pay any taxes when you sell it, but it pays taxes as you bring the money out. But now your money is growing tax-free, so that money you're making on the extra money you would have paid in taxes is literally paying the taxes when you come out. So it kind of nets out as a zero tax game, as another example. There's just also some tax efficient investments. People always get nervous about oil and gas, because you should be. But there are some really high quality, exceptional oil and gas investments that can reduce pretty dramatically your tax burden and provide a really good stream of income in the meantime. So those are a couple examples. In terms of increasing, just as important as lowering the taxes, though, is getting a good return on the money that you're bringing out. And frankly, the lower the exit amount is you're going to get, the more important that becomes. Because if someone's selling their company for $2 million and they're planning to retire and live on that for the rest of their life, there's a huge difference in, if you go to, I don't want to name any names, but some of the big brokerage firms where they'll say, oh yeah, I can get you 4% a year on that. Well, that's a nice conservative amount, but you can get private alternative investments that are non-correlated to the market, which is really important. And you can be making 6, 8, 10%, and on a very really, you don't want to say no risk, and I even hesitate saying low risk. But even the market, the S&P 500 is, it's up and down, and over time it does well. But these are non-correlated to the market, so that you can kind of depend on the income coming every quarter or every month, depending on how they pay out. And you can do exceptional. Now, the key is you got to be an accredited investor for most of these investments. But most of your business owners that have an exit, they're going to be accredited, which is $1 million net worth minus your house. And so they would pretty much qualify for most of the alternative investments that we have in our library that can really make a huge difference. You take somebody that's got a $2 million exit, well, 4% on that is $80,000 a year versus, 8% on that is $160,000. That makes a pretty big difference in someone's lifestyle, right?
Huge difference. Yeah. So two things I want to dive into a little bit. So one is, because of the service you can provide, I've had some guests on that are not in a position to give financial advice because of the position Legacy Wealth Management is in. You're giving investment advice. I mean, this could be good for you. This could be good for you. And as long as the person's accredited, you're able to provide that expertise.
Yes. 100%.
Okay. And you use the term non-correlated to the market. And so can you explain that a little bit more?
I'll give you a couple examples. So, I think everybody knows what a REIT is. It's a real estate investment trust. They're public. You can buy and sell them. There are, private REITs essentially. Okay. And they have niches and specialties that we've found what we believe are the best of the best. And you can make an investment in one of those, and they go out and they may have a specialty in multifamily houses and getting really good deals. And they're paying, typically a 7 or 8% minimum dividend annually. It could be paid in quarterly, but annual return 7, 8%. But then they typically will flip the fund in about 5 years. They'll execute, and then they'll go sell it to a big public REIT. And when they sell it, you end up getting another 5, 6, 7%. So over the course of a 5-year period, you're earning 12, 13, 14%. You can, no guarantees, right?
Right.
That asset continues to perform regardless of the S&P's up, down, sideways. That's what I mean by non-correlated. So
Great.
when you invest in something that is not affected by the stock market going up and down, that's a non-correlated investment.
Okay.
And so we have a number of non-correlated investments, which is really important if you're looking for retirement money, something you can count on month after month, year after year. And I'm not saying you don't have money in the market. Of course, we recommend that people have money in the market also as part of the growth, and you can still get some income and dividends from playing in the market. But if you look at, we call them alternative investments. When I say non-correlated, a lot of the alternative investments are non-correlated. Now, here's the interesting thing about alternative investments. Family offices, which generally mean you're managing $100 million to several billion, to have your own family. You're just a rich family. You're going to have your own advisors, and they're going to work full time for you to get the best return on your capital as possible. The average family office, I think it was JP Morgan did a study a year ago, has 50% of their assets in alternative investments.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah. So the wealthier you are, the more invested you are in this space. And Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock last year, because the traditional financial advisor is 60-40, 60% stocks, 40% bonds. That's just, decades old. That's what a lot of people follow. Well, Larry Fink came out last year and he said, that model is gone. It's now, we're going to put 20% in alts, and this is just for everybody. And then 30% in bonds, and 50% in stocks. And so this alternative movement is growing very fast, and it's becoming something that every accredited investor, if you're an accredited investor, you should be looking for alternative investments that are non-correlated and are high quality and pay good dividends.
Okay. Well, that's great. So let's drill into accredited for a minute. There's also an income component that can allow somebody to qualify as accredited as well. So just for our listeners, can you just pull apart those rules? Because if somebody says, listen, I'm not sure I'm at $1 million net worth without my house, they might meet the income requirement.
Yeah. The income requirement's $200,000 a year. And if you're married and your spouse makes another $100,000, so $300,000 in household income, that qualifies you as an accredited investor.
Okay.
So those are the two standards: $1 million net worth, or $200,000 a year, or $300,000 household.
Okay. And was there recently, around that topic, was there recently a requirement to receive an attorney's letter or some document, some professionally licensed person to sign off as well? Usually
it's your CPA. It could typically it's your tax preparer if you don't have a CPA, but typically the CPA goes in and says, I confirm that they have a net worth of $1 million or they're earning this kind of income.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's the requirement these days in order to participate in alternative investments that can be offered.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's look through here. I've got some questions that I wanted to run through, but one of them is legacy. And I know that's also the term of your firm, both firms. But what does that mean to you? What's legacy mean from a standpoint of your company's culture, or for individuals to grab a hold of and pursue?
Yeah, it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I think that it's a couple things. Number one, legacy is how you want to be remembered when you're gone. That's the number one thing you're focused on when you're thinking about what kind of legacy do I want to create. And, that's something that takes a lot of thinking and a lot of planning, and can take months or years to really figure out what that is. But that's primarily the foundational thing. Together with that is you're talking about potentially generational wealth, right? Even $10 million is generational wealth that can have a huge impact on your children if you leave that to them. And so as part of your legacy, one of the things that is so, so critical is constructing that passive money to your children in a way that's not going to screw up their lives.
Mm,
There's a podcast that I love called the All In Podcast. Have you ever heard of it?
I have.
Yeah. And it's four billionaires sitting around talking about current events and everything else. And, a couple of months ago, I heard them talking about trust fund kids.
Uh-huh.
And they're just like, the most horrible people on the planet are trust fund kids.
Wow. That's a strong statement.
It's a strong statement, right? And it's because, you've just hand them money so they don't have to work or do anything. It usually doesn't turn out good. Not always. Some people are going to really take that and do a lot of good with their life and for other people. And a lot of them don't. And so legacy is a big part of that, is this generational wealth planning of how you're going to provide the money to them. Maybe they have to qualify for it by doing certain things. Maybe a part of it's in a foundation that they're going to manage and can take a salary for managing that. Maybe it's educational based, where you've got to hit these certain educational milestones to get certain amounts. There's a lot of different things you can do here to help direct them and guide them to achieve things and to accomplish things that are going to be good for themselves, that they're going to feel good about, instead of just, sitting back and living off dividend checks every month and ending up going down a path that obviously your parents wouldn't be happy about. So I think a big, big part of the legacy is really taking a lot of time and energy thinking about how to structure this money when you're gone that's going to actually have a positive impact on your children's lives instead of a negative one.
Well, it's such a great point. We had a guest on a couple months ago who talked about family bank and that concept and principle. And I love that concept. Maybe we'll touch on that a little bit. But I've also been asked to be a trustee for a couple of people who have passed away that were close to me, and been responsible for helping design the plan that they had for their estate, for their kids, and then got to watch it play out. And there's just so much there. And I think none of us, or most of us, don't want to leave a legacy that ends up destroying our children's lives, even though we think they'll never have to worry about anything. That's not necessarily the gift that it's intended to be. It doesn't always work out that way. And it's just one of the things that I've been fascinated to witness and experience.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I'll go one more step and then ask for your feedback. Yeah. Yeah, just one more step. I've recently realized that the desire to give somebody a life where they don't need to struggle or potentially compromise or suffer a little bit to get where they want to go is literally robbing them from what has made most of us that feel successful wherever we are to get where we are. You literally, by trying to spare them from that, you don't give them the opportunity to feel the success. And so all of this is built into the point you just brought up,
Yeah, 100%. No, 100%. And my four kids, I've got a couple, I won't name them, that I've got two that I think would do great if they just got the money and there was no plan. And there's a couple that probably wouldn't do so great.
Yeah.
And so it's a big part of what I'm thinking about now too.
Mm-hmm. Well, I helped my friend who passed away design a system where the money was distributed to his daughter in pieces, so when she hit this age, she had some money for education and housing and so on and so forth. But at this age, she received responsibility for part of the estate. And then another 5 years later, another part and another part. And I appreciate that aspect because it does give an opportunity to fail potentially and get used to having that kind of money. But honestly, I think I'm leaning more towards, because my wife Audrey and I have emulated that system, I'm leaning more towards potentially a family bank type of dynamic where they receive some consideration or compensation to cover basic needs, but they learn what it's like to borrow from the family bank, and they have the opportunity and need to pay it back. And the generational wealth can continue with that. And so, yeah. So how deep do you get with legacy wealth management into those topics with people? True succession.
Oh, yeah. We have some senior financial advisors that are really good. They work with some super high net worth individuals, people that have hundreds of millions of dollars, and this is part of their practice. And so we get there. We have financial planners that will literally take 3 to 6 months working with a super high net worth individual on their life plan, their financial plan, and their legacy plan.
Wow.
It's very deep. It gets as deep as they want to go.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, so let's switch the other direction. I know quite a few business owners that have everything they have is in their business and they have no retirement. And they're at an age where it's really long past due. I mean, are there opportunities for somebody like that to work with your company to get caught up and hopefully catch up through alternative investments with better than average returns, that kind of thing, where they can enjoy a retirement, or are those people just in a situation where they have to work until they pass?
Yeah, this is a big yes to working with business owners, right?
Yeah.
It's just I'm laughing because I was just thinking about one of our advisors just met a business owner who made $800,000 last year, hasn't filed their taxes in 3 years.
Oh my!
So it's like
that's not going to end well. Yeah.
No. So he's working with them to get them caught up, and then to create a savings plan. Because this is just your business is your life, and you're running your business, and you're making money, and you're doing okay, and so you haven't, you don't focus on the finances and saving and investing. That is an important thing to do for your entire life, right? And so a lot of business owners haven't done it. They start a business and they don't have much to begin with, and then they start making money and they just don't really focus on that. Do you remember the book? It's probably 30 years old now, called The Millionaire Next Door.
I do. Yeah, I read it cover to cover and learned an enormous amount in reading it cover to cover. There's a lot of value in that book.
That book is still 100% relevant today. And there's a chapter in there where it compares two doctors. They both started their medical careers at the same time, making money, and they both made the same amount of money over 20 years. And at the end of 20 years, one doctor had a net worth of $500,000. The other doctor had a net worth of 20 million. So, it's all about having a plan and sticking to it and creating a plan, whether you're a business owner making $150,000 a year or making $1.5 million a year. Saving and living under your, under what you everybody should get to the point where they're saving 50% of their income. That's the goal we should all try and strive for, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you're only making $50,000 a year, of course, that's going to be hard, but you can you can save 10% of that. You can do that. If you've got the plan and you know where that's going to lead you. And it's interesting when people have a plan, it's so much more motivating for them to invest and save and do the things they need to do. So that's a big part of what we do, of course, with business owners, is help them just get their financial life in order and create a plan and start saving and putting money away so that, eventually, even if they don't sell the business, they've got enough money for retirement, right? That's really also another good goal.
Yeah, well, and it's just the objective, right? Who wants to, I mean, I know I like working, and I suspect I'll work well into retirement. I just don't want to have to if I choose not to.
Right.
And that's where the planning comes into place, like you're talking about. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people, it's not easy to plan necessarily and to live on less than what you want to or what you think is fun. But at the end of the day, the rewards are worth it, and it can be done incrementally in small movements if you start now, right, as opposed to 10 years from now or 20 years from now.
Yeah, and one of the things we do for clients that are kind of early in their investment and saving and building wealth, is we do dreamscaping. And it's like, what do you really want to do if you don't have to do this job
Yeah.
and you had enough money? What I like to say is a rich uncle just left you $100 million.
Uh-huh.
So you don't have to work another day the rest of your life. What are you going to do with your life? And you'd be surprised how many people don't know the answer to that question. And sometimes it takes them months or years to really figure that out. But once you figure that out, then you can go, okay, how much money is it going to take for you to be able to do that?
Uh-huh.
And, it doesn't take $100 million. Most of the time, it doesn't even take $10 million. You might be able to do it with $1 million or $2 million in good investments, and once people see, okay, I can have really the life that I want, and I only need $1 million or $2 million to be able to do that, that's very motivating.
It is.
To start the saving plan and to start investing and start being smart and wise with your money. That's how you're going to really build wealth. And, if you get 100 million, good for you. But you've got a target now.
Yeah.
And if you get there, now you've got freedom. You can keep working, you can keep building, or you can do exactly what you wanted to do, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a powerful tool. It's funny you bring it up. We're talking about stuff that goes way back in my history, but I went through that process quite some time ago, 30 years ago, probably around the same time I was reading the Millionaire Next Door book. And
yeah,
it is fascinating how little money it takes and how achievable it is. If, in my case, I started then. And so it goes a long way towards helping us to get to the outcome that we desire and all of that. So, well, I value very valuable information. And one of the last question I have for you is that, I always focus on trying to get to gratitude and where we've come from. And you've got an amazing resume and bio here. And who in your life helped you get to where you are? Can you share with us an example of somebody that helped you along the way? And this also goes along with, it's so easy to look at people that are somewhere and decide that they just had something special and that it's never possible. I don't believe that. I believe with help along the way and tenacity, we can do whatever we want to do. So would you mind sharing with us how you got where you are?
Yeah, I love this question. I appreciate you asking it. There's several people that have helped me, but I'm going to give you one that's probably going to surprise you. You probably don't hear this very often, but it was a lawyer. And yeah.
I have not heard that one yet. Yes, I'll say that.
And his name is Joel Goldschmidt. He's based in New York. His law firm, he was the lead lawyer on my IPO.
Interesting.
So when I was preparing to do my IPO, his little boutique law firm specializes in doing IPOs. It's one of the main things they specialize in. And in addition to just doing all the legal work, and he was exceptional at it, he was a great business coach and finance coach. For example, in my IPO, it was way oversubscribed. I could take more money. And I had this conversation. I'll still never forget it. And I'm like, I don't need the money. I don't want to get diluted anymore because I don't need the money. And he's like, Paul, I hear that a lot. And every single time someone has a chance to take more money and they don't, they regret it.
Interesting.
And so I really took that to heart, and I ended up taking more money, and I did not regret taking the more money. I needed it. And then he multiple times when I was looking to buy a company or do a big transaction that would have generated a lot of legal fees for him, he talked me out of it.
Wow.
He said, no, here's a reason why, another reason, this is why it's not a good deal for you. You don't want to do this. And that kind of mentor and guide that can give you advice that is not based on any incentive that they're going to earn from the advice, when they can be that, neutral, it's super valuable. And I always really appreciated that from him. And I'll just tell you a quick little story. He was a New York, just aggressive lawyer, a good guy, a really good guy, but just their nature down in New York, you get these New York lawyers, they're just aggressive. And there was a few times where I was looking to acquire a company, and I'd finally be the time for the CEO and their attorney to get on the phone with me and my attorney to try and work through some details. He was the best negotiator ever, because what would happen is they'd say, well, we want to do this or this. And he'd just say, nope, Paul, you're not going to do that. We're not agreeing to that. So he could be the bad guy.
Yeah.
And I could be the good guy. And he would just be tough. And we'd get off the call and I'd have to call the CEO directly and go, everything's going to be okay. Don't worry about it. We'll get this deal done. But he did such a good job of negotiating great terms because of his negotiating style. It was just brilliant. So another thing that he helped me a lot with and that I appreciate. So.
Well, that's great. Yeah. It sounds like he was certainly somebody who was in your corner and had your back. Despite whether it was good for him or not. And that's amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. And where can people find you? I know I've mentioned the name several times, but if they want to talk with you, where do they find you?
Well, the easy way to find me is just on my email, paul@hickey.com, Hickey.
Okay.
You can find me at my company, Legacy Wealth Management. It's legacywealthmg.com. And it's Paul at legacywealthmg.com also, if you're looking for financial advice.
Okay.
And those are the best ways to reach out and get in touch with me.
That's great. Well, I really appreciate the time that you've spent with us today and some of the insights that you've shared. I know they will serve our audience very well and I'm grateful. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me on. I enjoyed the conversation. Great questions. I really enjoyed it. So thanks.
Absolutely. Well, that's the end of today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it and gained some valuable insights that will guide you on your journey. We will see you on the next episode. And that's a wrap on today's episode. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and got some valuable insights into the world of buying and selling businesses. Want to be a guest on our show? If you have a deal that you'd like to discuss with us or a business story to share, we'd love to hear from you. Shoot us an email using the contact information below in the episode notes, and let's make this happen. Never miss an episode. Make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And if you found today's episode helpful, please leave us a review. It helps more people like you find the show.